Most people try too hard to be attractive, and that effort is exactly what makes them forgettable. Real attraction is quiet. It doesn't beg, it doesn't perform, and it definitely doesn't chase attention. The people you notice most in a room are rarely the loudest. They are calm, grounded, and completely in control of themselves. This audiobook will teach you the silent habits that create natural presence, unshakable confidence, and a kind of social power that doesn't need approval. If you master these behaviors, people will feel your value before you say a single word. Chapter 1. Stop trying to be liked. Let's start with a hard truth. The more you try to be liked, the less attractive you become. That stings. Good. You're here to grow, not to stay comfortable. Most people walk into every social interaction with one hidden goal. I hope they like me. That single thought quietly controls their tone, their body language, their laughter, even their opinions. They adjust. They soften. They agree too quickly. They explain too much. And the result? They become predictable, safe, forgettable. You have a choice. You can chase approval, or you can build presence. You cannot do both at the same time. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. When you seek approval, your behavior becomes needy. Neediness is not loud. It's subtle. It's the extra sentence you didn't need to say. It's the nervous laugh after your own joke. It's the way you rush to fill silence because you think quiet equals awkward. That's not confidence. That's performance. And people feel it. They may not consciously think, this person wants validation, but they feel the imbalance. They feel that you are leaning toward them psychologically, hoping for acceptance. And the moment you lean, you lower your perceived value. It's not about being friendly, it's about discipline. Friendly is fine, warm is fine. But when friendliness turns into approval seeking, you lose your edge. You start shaping your personality around reactions instead of principles. You don't need their permission to be who you are. Picture two people at a small social gathering. The first person talks constantly. They jump into every conversation. They overshare. They laugh loudly at jokes that aren't even funny. When there's a pause, they rush to fill it. When someone tells a story, they immediately top it with a bigger one. They are working, performing, trying to earn their place. The second person is relaxed. They speak when they have something to add. They listen fully. They don't rush to impress. They don't interrupt silence. When they talk, it's measured, calm, direct. Who feels more attractive? Not the entertainer. The grounded one. Why? Because calm signals self-trust. Over-effort signals self-doubt. You have a choice. Perform for attention or sit in your own presence. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. Here's what chasing looks like in real life. You ask a question, but before the other person answers, you start explaining why you asked it. You give compliments too quickly, hoping to be liked. You agree with opinions you don't actually hold just to avoid tension. You apologize for things that don't require an apology. Every one of those behaviors sends the same message. Please accept me. An acceptance that is begged for is rarely respected. That's the key. When you stop trying to be liked, something strange happens. You become more interesting, more magnetic. Not because you changed your personality, but because you stopped leaking insecurity through over-effort. It's not about being cold, it's about being centered. There's a big difference. Centered people don't rush. They don't over-explain. They don't need constant reassurance that they're doing okay socially. They assume they belong. That assumption changes everything. You don't need their permission. Try this experiment. In your next conversation, cut your words by 30%. Say less than you normally would. When someone laughs, don't automatically laugh louder. When there's a pause, let it exist. When you share something about yourself, stop talking before you feel the urge to add extra details to make it more impressive. Feel the discomfort. That discomfort is withdrawal from validation addiction. You have a choice. Go back to performing or sit in the silence and let your presence do the work. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. Most people fear that if they stop trying, they'll be ignored. That fear is exactly what keeps them stuck, because trying too hard is what makes people tune out. Your constant effort becomes noise, and noise is easy to ignore. Calm is different. Calm stands out. When you stop chasing approval, you create psychological space. Space creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attraction. People start leaning toward you because you are no longer leaning toward them. That's power. Quiet power. It's not about charm, it's about control. Control of your urge to impress. Control of your need to be validated. Control of your impulse to fill every gap with words. That control signals emotional strength, and emotional strength is attractive in every culture, every room, every dynamic. You have a choice: impress them or intrigue them. Impressing is loud and immediate. Intrigue is quiet and lasting. One fades fast, the other builds over time. Here's another shift. Stop explaining your decisions unless explanation is truly required. If you say you don't drink, you don't need a 5-minute story about why. If you can't attend something, a simple "I can't make it" is enough. Over-explaining is a hidden form of approval seeking. You're trying to make sure they still like you after you set a boundary. You don't need their permission to have boundaries. Every time you resist the urge to over-justify yourself, your internal confidence grows. And confidence you build internally shows externally without you saying a word. That's the key. Silent attraction begins when validation stops being your goal. Your goal shifts from "how do I get them to like me" to "am I showing up in a way I respect?" That shift changes your posture, your tone, your pacing, your energy. People feel that. And here's the truth most won't tell you. Some people will like you less when you stop trying to be liked. Good. Those people were only comfortable with the version of you that was seeking approval. The grounded version of you raises the standard. Not everyone can meet it. You have a choice. Shrink to be accepted or stand firm and be respected. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. This chapter is about one core discipline. Stop performing for approval. Speak when you have value to add. Let silence breathe. Don't rush to prove your worth. Let people discover it over time. You don't need their permission to exist confidently in a room. When you stop chasing attention, you start commanding it without effort. That is the foundation of silent attraction. Not louder, not flashier, just more grounded, more controlled, more self-assured. You drop the need to be liked. Good. That creates space. Now we build the physical signals that support that inner shift. Presence is not only mental, it's physical. You stopped performing with words. Now it's time to stop performing with your body. Chapter 2. Slow down your movements. Most people move like they're being chased. Fast steps, quick gestures, constant fidgeting, shifting weight, checking their phone, adjusting their clothes, nodding too much, reacting too fast. All of it signals the same thing: inner rush, inner tension, inner need. And tension is not attractive. Calm is. You have a choice. Move from anxiety or move from control. Slow body, strong mind. Your physical pace is a direct reflection of your emotional state. When your mind is restless, your body becomes noisy. And when your body is noisy, people feel that instability before you ever speak. This is not about moving in slow motion like a robot. It's about removing unnecessary speed, removing rushed energy, removing twitchy, approval-seeking body language. Because rushed movement often comes from the same place as over-talking. The desire to be accepted, the fear of being judged, the need to prove you belong. It's not about speed, it's about discipline. Watch confident people in any environment: a courtroom, a high-level meeting, a respected teacher in a classroom. Their movements are measured. They don't rush to sit, they don't rush to respond, they don't rush to react physically to every stimulus. They conserve motion. That conservation creates presence. You have a choice. Scatter your energy or contain it. Contained energy feels powerful. Scattered energy feels nervous. Slow body, strong mind. Let's break it down into real behaviors. First, walking. If you walk too fast in social environments, it signals urgency without authority. You look like you're trying to get somewhere important, but not like you are important. There's a difference. Importance moves with control, not panic. Try this. Reduce your walking speed by just 10%. Not dramatic, subtle. Keep your shoulders relaxed. Let your arms swing naturally, not rigid, not exaggerated. Head level, eyes forward. You're not in a race. You're in control. You have a choice. Rush to be noticed or move like you already belong. Second, sitting down. Most people drop into chairs quickly. They adjust immediately. They fidget. They cross and uncross their legs. They fix their shirt. All of that screams internal discomfort. Instead, sit with intention. Turn, position yourself, sit smoothly, then be still for a moment before adjusting anything. That pause signals comfort in your own skin. Stillness is confidence made visible. That's the key. Third, hand movements. Nervous hands are one of the biggest attraction killers. Touching your face repeatedly, cracking knuckles, playing with objects, over-gesturing while speaking. These are leakage points. They reveal anxiety and a need for approval. You don't need their permission to take up calm space. Practice controlled gestures. When you speak, let your hands move with purpose, not chaos. When you're listening, let your hands rest. Still hands signal a still mind. It's not about being stiff, it's about being grounded. Slow body, strong mind. Now let's talk about micro reactions. Someone says something surprising. You jerk your head. Someone disagrees. You instantly shift posture. Someone laughs. You jump in physically with exaggerated movement. These fast physical reactions make you easy to read and easy to influence. Your body is constantly voting emotionally before your mind has time to process. You have a choice. React instantly or respond deliberately. Before any physical reaction, create a micro pause, a fraction of a second. That pause is power. It shows that your nervous system is not in charge. You are. That's the discipline most people never build. Because speed feels natural when you're anxious. Slowing down feels uncomfortable. You might feel exposed, awkward, too noticeable. Good. That discomfort means you're breaking an old pattern. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. And that includes physical space. When your movements are slower and more deliberate, people have time to register you, to feel your presence, to become curious. Fast movement is visual noise. Slow movement creates visual authority. You have a choice. Be noise or be presence. Let's use a social example. Two people walk into a room. The first person enters quickly, looks around fast, adjusts their clothes, pulls out their phone, scans faces nervously. Their energy says, "Where do I fit? Who do I talk to? Am I okay here?" The second person walks in at a calm pace. Brief scan of the room, neutral expression, shoulders relaxed. They don't rush to grab their phone. They don't rush to attach themselves to a group. They look like they are evaluating the room, not begging the room to accept them. Who feels more attractive? The one who looks self-contained. That's the key. Your movement tells a story before your mouth opens. If the story is rushed, scattered, and reactive, people assume your inner world is the same. If the story is calm, grounded, and measured, they assume emotional strength. And emotional strength is magnetic. You don't need their permission to move at your own pace. Now, let's talk about stillness. Most people fear being still because stillness feels like exposure. They think they need constant motion to avoid looking awkward. But controlled stillness is one of the strongest social signals of confidence. Stand still without swaying. Sit without constant adjustment. Hold eye contact without darting your gaze every second. Stillness creates gravity. People feel it. You have a choice. Fill space with nervous motion or hold space with calm presence. Slow body, strong mind. Here's a practical drill. For the next 7 days, become aware of unnecessary movement. Every time you catch yourself fidgeting, rushing, or reacting physically too fast, pause. Breathe once. Reset your posture. Slow down by 10%. That's it. Simple, hard, effective. Because this is not about style. It's about nervous system discipline. It's not about looking cool. It's about being in control. When your body slows down, your mind follows. When your mind slows down, your emotions stabilize. When your emotions stabilize, your presence becomes heavier, calmer, more attractive. This is how silent attraction becomes visible. You stop chasing approval with words in the last chapter. Now you stop chasing comfort with movement. Both are forms of the same weakness. Both are solved with the same tool. Control. You have a choice. Let your body expose your anxiety or train it to express your strength. Slow body, strong mind. Master this, and people will feel something different about you without knowing why. They'll describe you as calm, grounded, confident. They won't mention your walking speed or your hand movements, but those details are doing the work silently. That's silent attraction. Your mind is learning to be still. Your body is learning to match. Now it's time to control the face, the place where emotions leak the fastest. Your movements are calmer. Good. Now we refine your expressions. Chapter 3, Master the Neutral Face. Your face talks before you do. It leaks approval. It leaks insecurity. It leaks the need to be liked. And most people have no control over it. They react instantly. Eyebrows jump, eyes widen, mouth opens, forced smiles, nervous smirks, over nodding. All of it sends one message. I need you to feel comfortable with me. That is not attractive. Composure is more powerful than charm. You have a choice. React emotionally with your face or respond with control. Your facial expressions are one of the biggest signals of social value. High-value people do not overreact. They don't exaggerate emotions for acceptance. They don't perform facial approval to keep the atmosphere safe. They observe, they process, then they respond. That pause changes everything. It's not about being cold, it's about being disciplined. Most people use their face to seek validation. They smile too quickly. They laugh too hard. They look shocked on cue. They mirror others excessively just to fit in. That makes them socially easy to digest. But easy to digest is not memorable, not intriguing, not magnetic. Composure is more powerful than charm. Let's break down the biggest mistake: instant smiling. Someone looks at you, and you immediately smile wide, even when there's no real reason. That automatic smile often comes from nervousness, not warmth. It says, I come in peace, please like me. You don't need their permission to exist calmly. A controlled, natural expression is different. A slight relaxed smile when it's genuine, neutral when it's not. That balance signals emotional stability. You have a choice. Smile to be accepted or smile because you actually feel it. Forced positivity feels fake. Calm neutrality feels grounded. Next mistake: overreacting to what people say. Someone tells a story. You gasp loudly. You overlaugh. You show exaggerated surprise. You think you're being engaging. What you're actually doing is signaling emotional impulsiveness. Impulsive emotion equals low control, and low control lowers attraction. It's not about being expressive, it's about being measured. When someone shares something funny, you can smile without exploding. When something is surprising, a slight eyebrow raise is enough. You don't need theatrical reactions to show you're listening. That's the key. Subtle reactions make people lean in. Big reactions give everything away. Composure is more powerful than charm. Now let's talk about disagreement. This is where most faces lose discipline. The second someone says something you don't like, your face tightens, lips press, eyes narrow, eyebrows drop. Even before you speak, your face has already started an argument. That makes you predictable and emotionally easy to control. You have a choice. Let your face expose your emotions, or keep your expression neutral while you think. Neutral does not mean blank. It means controlled, calm, observing. When you hold a neutral face during disagreement, two things happen. First, you stay in control of your emotions. Second, the other person becomes slightly uncomfortable because they can't read you easily. That uncertainty shifts the psychological balance. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. And emotional space is created when you don't give instant reactions. Let's use a real-world example. Imagine two people receiving criticism. The first person immediately looks hurt. Their eyes drop. Their face tightens. They rush to explain themselves. Their expression is pleading for understanding. The second person listens. Neutral expression, slight nod. No visible emotional spike. They pause before responding. Who looks more confident? The one who can hold their face steady. You don't need their permission to stay composed. Your face must learn to wait for your mind. That's discipline. Now here's an important distinction. Neutral does not mean lifeless. It means intentional. When something is genuinely funny, laugh. When something is meaningful, show warmth. But remove the automatic, exaggerated reactions that come from insecurity. You have a choice. React from habit or respond with awareness. Composure is more powerful than charm. Another key area is eye contact. Nervous people break eye contact too fast or stare too intensely to compensate. Both come from overthinking. Both leak insecurity. Calm eye contact is steady, natural, and unforced. You look when you listen. You look when you speak. You don't dart your eyes around searching for approval from others in the room. Your eyes should say, "I am here," not, "Am I okay here?" That's the key. Your face should feel like a calm surface, not a flashing billboard of emotions. Why does this matter so much? Because people are constantly scanning faces for emotional cues. If your face is overly reactive, they sense emotional instability. If your face is composed, they sense strength and control. And emotional control is attractive at a primal level. It signals safety, leadership, stability. You have a choice. Be emotionally loud with your face or be emotionally grounded. Let's talk about social pressure. In groups, there's often pressure to react along with everyone else. Big laughs, dramatic shock, collective outrage. If you don't join, you might feel like you stand out. Good. Standing out through calm is power. You don't have to match the group's emotional volume to belong. In fact, the person who stays slightly more composed than the rest often becomes the emotional anchor of the group. That's silent influence. It's not about dominating attention, it's about stabilizing energy. Composure is more powerful than charm. Here's a simple exercise. For the next week, delay your facial reactions by 1 second. Someone says something surprising. Pause, then respond. Someone makes a joke. Let the humor land before reacting. Someone challenges you. Keep your face neutral while you process. That 1 second delay builds massive control. You have a choice: instant emotion or intentional expression. Your face is one of the fastest ways to lose silent attraction. It's also one of the fastest ways to build it. When your expressions are calm and measured, people start projecting qualities onto you. Confidence, depth, emotional strength. They don't know you're practicing discipline. They just feel the result. That's the power of silent attraction. Your words are becoming fewer. Your movements are becoming calmer. Now, your face is becoming more controlled. Each layer removes visible neediness. Each layer adds quiet presence. You don't need their permission to hold your composure. Master this, and you stop leaking emotional reactions. You become harder to read, harder to influence, more grounded, more intriguing. That's the goal. You've stopped chasing approval with words. You've slowed your body. You've stabilized your expressions. Now it's time to refine the way you speak, because attraction is not just about silence. It's about precision. Your face is calm. Good. Now we sharpen your voice. Chapter 4. Speak less, say more. Most people talk to prove. They explain their jokes. They over-justify their opinions. They repeat themselves. They add extra details that were never needed. They think more words equal more value. They're wrong. Value speaks in fewer words. You have a choice. Talk to fill space, or speak to add weight. The more you talk, the more you reveal insecurity. Not always in what you say, but in how much you feel the need to say. Over-talking often comes from the same place as over-smiling and over-moving. The fear of being overlooked, the need to be understood immediately, the urge to make sure everyone sees your worth right now. That urgency kills intrigue. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. And verbal space is just as powerful as physical space. When you speak less, your words carry more density. People lean in. They pay attention. They assign importance because you are not flooding them with noise. It's not about being quiet. It's about being precise. Let's start with over-explaining. Someone asks you a simple question. Instead of giving a clean answer, you give context, backstory, disclaimers, and emotional cushioning. By the time you finish, you sound unsure of your own point. You don't need their permission to state your view simply. Try this shift. Answer the question directly. Then stop. Let silence hold the space after your words. Do not rush to soften your stance. Do not add filler to make it more acceptable. You have a choice. Protect your image with extra words or protect your power with restraint. Value speaks in fewer words. Next mistake, talking just to avoid silence. Silence makes most people uncomfortable, so they jump in. Random stories, unnecessary commentary, repeating what was already said. They are not contributing. They are managing their own anxiety. But when you speak from anxiety, people feel the need behind it. Need lowers attraction. Composed silence raises it. That's the key. When you are comfortable not speaking, people subconsciously assume you are comfortable with yourself. That assumption increases your social value instantly. You don't need their permission to be quiet. Now, let's talk about storytelling. When you share something about yourself, most people overextend. They add achievements that weren't asked for. They subtly brag. They try to impress. And in doing so, they remove mystery. Mystery builds attraction. Oversharing kills it. You have a choice. Reveal everything, or reveal just enough. Give the headline, not the full documentary. Let people ask follow-up questions. Let curiosity pull information out of you instead of you pushing it on to them. That dynamic shift changes your perceived value. Value speaks in fewer words. Another common habit is nervous rambling. You start a sentence strong, then halfway through you doubt yourself. So you add qualifiers. I mean, kind of, sort of, I don't know, maybe. Each extra cushion weakens your statement. Strong communication is clean, direct, unapologetic. It's not about being aggressive, it's about being clear. Clear speech signals clear thinking. Clear thinking signals internal stability. Stability is attractive. You have a choice. Soften every statement or stand behind your words calmly. That's the discipline. Now let's look at social dynamics. In group conversations, there is always someone trying to dominate verbally. Fast talker, story topper, joke repeater. They are competing for airtime. You don't compete, you contribute. When you do speak, make it count. A short observation, a sharp insight, a well-timed comment. Then you lean back into stillness. That contrast between silence and impact makes people remember what you said. Loud voices get heard. Calm voices get respected. Value speaks in fewer words. Here's a powerful shift. Stop answering questions that were never asked. Sometimes people talk just to show they know something, to insert knowledge into conversations where it's not required. That is subtle validation seeking. You're trying to prove intelligence instead of letting it be discovered naturally. You don't need their permission to be knowledgeable. Let your intelligence show through the quality of your few words, not the quantity of your speech. You have a choice. Display your value or let it be noticed. One feels forced, the other feels magnetic. Another key behavior: stop interrupting. Interrupting often comes from excitement or anxiety, but socially, it signals a lack of control. It says, "My thoughts are more urgent than your words." Controlled people can hold their thoughts without spilling them immediately. They wait, they listen fully, then they speak. That patience signals emotional discipline. It's not about silence, it's about timing. Timing turns normal words into powerful ones. Value speaks in fewer words. Let's make this practical. In your next few conversations, aim to speak 20 to 30% less than usual. Not by shutting down, but by cutting filler. Remove repeated points. Remove nervous disclaimers. Remove unnecessary background. Speak. Stop. Hold eye contact. Let your words land. That pause after speaking is where your presence grows. You have a choice. Fill every gap with sound, or let silence amplify your impact. Silence after speech shows confidence. It says, "I'm comfortable with what I just said." People feel that certainty, and certainty is attractive. Now here's the deeper truth. When you talk too much, you try to control how others see you. When you talk less, you allow space for people to form their own perception, and people value what they discover more than what is handed to them. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. Your job is not to convince everyone you are interesting. Your job is to become comfortable enough with yourself that you don't need to. You don't need their permission to take up less verbal space and more psychological space. That's the key. Speaking less is not about being passive. It's about being intentional. Every word becomes a tool, not a reflex. Every sentence has weight. Every pause has presence. This is how silent attraction becomes audible. You stopped chasing approval with words. You slowed your body. You mastered your expressions. Now your speech is becoming sharper, cleaner, more controlled. You are no longer loud. You are deliberate. That makes people pay attention. Your words now carry weight. Good. But words are only half the battle. Real power appears in the space between stimulus and response. You learn to speak with restraint. Now you learn to react with discipline. Chapter 5. Detach from immediate reactions. Your first reaction is rarely your strongest one. It's usually emotional, defensive, impulsive, conditioned. And when you live in that first reaction, you give other people control over your state. Pause equals power. You have a choice. React automatically or respond intentionally. Most people don't realize how predictable they are. Compliment them, they light up. Criticize them, they shrink or fight back. Ignore them, they chase. Disagree with them, they tense up. Their emotional buttons are exposed, easy to press, easy to manipulate. That is the opposite of silent attraction. Silent attraction requires emotional delay, a gap between what happens and how you respond. That gap is where your power lives. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about mastering timing. Let's look at praise. Someone compliments you. Instantly, you brighten up, talk more, give more energy, maybe even start oversharing. Your state just got hijacked by external approval. You don't need their permission to feel good about yourself. Instead, receive praise calmly. Simple acknowledgement. Thank you. Relaxed tone. No sudden spike in energy. No performance in return. Why? Because when praise doesn't control you, people sense inner stability. Pause equals power. Now, criticism. This is where most people lose control completely. Their face tightens. Their voice speeds up. They defend. They explain. They try to fix how they are being perceived in real time. That reaction screams insecurity. You have a choice. Defend instantly, or pause and process. When criticized, slow your breathing. Keep your face neutral. Let the words land without rushing to correct them. That pause alone shifts the dynamic. It shows you are not emotionally fragile. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being unshaken. Unshaken people are rare. Rare is attractive. Pause equals power. Now think about teasing or jokes at your expense. Many people either overlaugh to show they're cool with it, or they get visibly offended. Both are reactive. Both show that your emotional state depends on how others treat you. Controlled response is different. Slight smile, calm eye contact, maybe a short, composed reply. No emotional spike. You don't need their permission to stay grounded. Your emotional neutrality creates psychological uncertainty. People can't easily read what affects you. That makes you harder to influence and more intriguing. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. Emotional space is created when you don't give instant access to your inner state. That's the key. Let's talk about bad news or unexpected problems. Something goes wrong. Plans change. Someone cancels. Most people react immediately with frustration in their voice and body. They vent. They complain. They spiral. That reaction trains your brain to be ruled by circumstances. You have a choice. Let events control your mood or control your response to events. The next time something small goes wrong, practice emotional delay. Before you speak, take one breath. Relax your shoulders. Then respond in a steady tone. This is discipline in action. It's not about pretending nothing affects you. It's about deciding that nothing gets instant access to your emotional control panel. Pause equals power. Here's why this is so attractive. When people see that you don't react quickly, they subconsciously register you as emotionally strong. You seem stable, grounded, safe. You don't swing wildly based on outside input. Emotional stability signals high value in social and evolutionary psychology. It suggests leadership, resilience, and self-trust. You don't need their permission to stay centered. Now let's address something deeper. Many people confuse authenticity with impulsiveness. They say, I just say what I feel, or I wear my heart on my sleeve. What they really mean is, I have no filter between emotion and action. That's not authenticity. That's lack of control. Real authenticity includes emotional discipline. You can feel everything and still choose what to express and when. You have a choice. Be driven by emotion or be guided by awareness. That awareness is the foundation of silent attraction. Because when you don't react instantly, people start adjusting to you. They slow down. They think more carefully about what they say. Your calm forces them to become more composed. That's quiet influence. Pause equals power. Let's make it practical. For the next week, install a rule. No immediate reactions. Not to praise, not to criticism, not to jokes, not to inconvenience. Give every situation a 2-second pause before responding. 2 seconds feels small, it's massive. In those 2 seconds, you regain control of your tone, your face, your words. You stop living on emotional autopilot. It's not about perfection. It's about practice. Every time you catch yourself reacting too fast, reset, breathe, slow down, try again next time. You are training your nervous system to follow your mind instead of the other way around. That's the key. Most people are emotionally available on demand. Anyone can shift their mood with a sentence. You are becoming emotionally selective. Not cold, not distant, just not easily moved. That emotional discipline builds presence without effort. People feel it. They trust it. They're drawn to it. You don't need their permission to stay in control of yourself. You stopped chasing approval. You slowed your movements. You mastered your facial expressions. You sharpened your speech. Now you've inserted space between stimulus and response. You are no longer emotionally predictable. And unpredictability combined with calm creates intrigue. This is silent attraction at a deeper level. Internal control that shows externally without explanation. Your reactions are now slower and more deliberate. Good. But there is one social tool that amplifies this power even more. Silence. Not awkward silence, controlled silence. You've learned to pause before reacting. Now you learn to let silence do the talking. Chapter 6. Be comfortable with silence. Silence exposes people. That's why most run from it. The moment a conversation pauses, they rush to fill it. Random comments, nervous laughter, pointless questions. They think silence is awkward. It's not. Uncontrolled silence is awkward. Controlled silence is power. Silence makes people lean in. You have a choice. Fill every gap with noise or let silence create gravity. Most people talk to manage their own discomfort, not to add value, not to deepen connection, just to avoid that brief moment where nothing is being said. But that moment is where presence is felt. When you are calm in silence, you signal something rare. You are not dependent on constant stimulation. You are not afraid of stillness. You are not performing to keep attention. You are grounded, and grounded people are attractive. It's not about being quiet, it's about being unbothered by quiet. Let's break the fear. Why do people hate silence? Because in silence, there's nothing to hide behind. No words to distract, no jokes to soften perception. Just you, your presence, your energy. If you're uncomfortable with yourself, silence feels like exposure. You have a choice. Escape that exposure with noise or build the strength to sit in it. Silence makes people lean in. When you stop rushing to fill gaps, something interesting happens. Other people start talking more. They reveal more. They try to win your attention. They explain themselves deeper. Why? Because silence creates subtle social pressure. Most people are uncomfortable carrying the weight of a quiet moment. So they step in to relieve it, and in doing so, they invest more into the interaction than you do. That shifts the dynamic. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. Silence is emotional space. Now let's look at a real-world situation. You're in a conversation. Someone finishes a story. There's a pause. Most people instantly jump in with, "Oh, that reminds me of," or "That's crazy because." They redirect attention to themselves. They think they're keeping the energy alive. Instead, try this. Hold eye contact, small nod, calm expression. Let the pause breathe for 2 or 3 seconds. It will feel long to you. It will feel powerful to them. Because in that moment, you are not scrambling. You are comfortable. That comfort signals confidence without a single word. Silence makes people lean in. Another scenario. You ask someone a question. They answer. Normally, you'd immediately follow with another question to keep things moving. Instead, let their answer sit. Look at them. Process it. Maybe say, or "I see," and pause again. Watch what happens. They often keep talking. They expand. They clarify. They open up more deeply than they planned. You didn't force it. Silence pulled it out. That's quiet influence. You don't need their permission to take your time responding. Now let's address the biggest fear. What if they think I'm awkward? Here's the truth. Awkwardness doesn't come from silence. It comes from anxious energy during silence, fidgeting, forced smiles, darting eyes. That's what makes silence uncomfortable. Calm silence feels different. Steady posture, relaxed face, soft eye contact, no rush to escape. That feels intentional, not awkward. You have a choice. Be silent with tension or silent with control. Control changes the meaning completely. Silence makes people lean in. Let's talk about dating or attraction contexts. The person who talks nonstop is easy to understand. No mystery, no intrigue. Their personality is laid out in the first 10 minutes. There's nothing left to discover. The person who speaks, then sits comfortably in silence, creates curiosity. Others start wondering what they're thinking, how they're feeling, who they really are. Mystery builds attraction. Silence protects mystery. It's not about playing games, it's about not oversharing your internal world instantly. You have a choice. Reveal everything immediately, or let people earn access over time. Silence is the gatekeeper of your inner world. Now let's go deeper. Silence also protects you from saying things you'll regret. Many social mistakes happen because people speak too fast. They over-disclose. They joke too far. They agree too quickly. They promise things they can't deliver. When you're comfortable with silence, you naturally slow down. You think before you speak. Your words become more intentional. That's the key. Silence is not emptiness. It's processing time. And people who process before speaking seem wiser, more thoughtful, more grounded. Those are attractive traits. Silence makes people lean in. Here's a powerful practice. In your next few conversations, allow at least one full breath before responding to anything important. Not in a dramatic way, subtle, natural. That one breath creates a pause. That pause builds presence. You'll notice something else. You feel less drained after social interactions. Why? Because you're not performing nonstop. You're not racing to keep energy high. You're allowing natural rhythm. It's not about entertaining, it's about connecting from a calm state. You don't need their permission to slow the pace of interaction. Now, silence also strengthens your emotional control. When someone says something irritating, silence gives you time to choose your response instead of firing back emotionally. When someone praises you, silence prevents you from overreacting and losing composure. Silence is the space where discipline lives. Without silence, you live in reaction. With silence, you live in intention. You have a choice. Speak from impulse or speak from awareness. Silence makes people lean in. Let's remove one more misconception. Being comfortable with silence does not mean being socially passive. You still engage, you still ask questions, you still share, but you don't rush, you don't panic when energy dips, you don't feel responsible for filling every empty second. That calm detachment makes others feel your presence more strongly. Because presence is not about volume, it's about stability. And stability is rare. You stopped chasing approval with words. You slowed your body. You controlled your expressions. You learned to pause before reacting. Now you are mastering the space between words. That space is where silent attraction lives. People feel drawn to those who are comfortable with stillness, because stillness signals self-trust, and self-trust is magnetic. You don't need their permission to sit in silence without shrinking. Master this, and conversations stop feeling like performances. They start feeling like controlled exchanges where your presence does as much work as your words. Silence is no longer your enemy. It's your ally. You can now hold space without filling it. Good. Because the next level of silent attraction is removing the urge to show your value at all. You've stopped filling silence. Now you stop trying to impress. Chapter 7. Control your need to impress. Most people are performing intelligence, performing confidence, performing success, performing humor, performing uniqueness, and they call it personality. It's not personality. It's insecurity in disguise. Let them notice, don't announce. You have a choice. Display your value or develop the discipline to let it be discovered. The need to impress is one of the fastest ways to destroy silent attraction. Because the moment you try to show your worth, you signal that you are unsure it will be seen on its own. That subtle signal lowers perceived value. It's not about having achievements. It's about not needing applause for them. Impressing is loud. Presence is quiet. When you walk into a room trying to be impressive, your energy changes. You talk more about yourself. You bring conversations back to your experiences. You mention credentials that weren't asked about. You exaggerate stories slightly to make them hit harder. You think you're building attraction. You're building resistance. Because people can feel when they're being sold a version of you. You don't need their permission to be valuable. Let's break down how the need to impress shows up in everyday behavior. Someone talks about travel. You immediately jump in with your most exotic trip. Someone shares a struggle. You top it with a bigger one. Someone mentions work. You subtly drop titles, numbers, or achievements. You are not connecting. You are competing. And competition energy pushes people away emotionally. You have a choice. Compete for attention or connect through calm presence. Let them notice, don't announce. There's power in understatement. When someone finds out later that you've done impressive things you never mentioned, their respect multiplies. Why? Because your value was not dependent on recognition. That signals deep confidence. Confidence that doesn't advertise itself feels real. That's the key. Now let's talk about humor. Many people try to impress by being the funniest person in the room. Constant jokes, constant punchlines, constant energy spikes. It works short term. But long term, it makes you predictable and drains your presence. You become entertainment, not intrigue. You have a choice. Be the loudest personality or the calmest presence. Calm presence lasts longer. This doesn't mean you stop being funny. It means you stop using humor as a tool for approval. Speak when it's natural, not when you feel pressure to keep attention. It's not about silence, it's about self-control. Let them notice, don't announce. Now look at social media behavior in real-life conversations. Bragging disguised as storytelling. I don't usually talk about this, but it was crazy. They actually picked me. I didn't expect to win, but you're pretending to be humble while still seeking validation. People see through it. True quiet confidence doesn't need disclaimers. You don't need their permission to know your own worth. When you stop trying to impress, your energy shifts from outward validation to inward stability. You stop scanning faces for reactions. You stop adjusting your story mid-sentence to get bigger responses. You speak, you let it land, you move on. That emotional detachment is attractive because it signals security. You have a choice. Perform for reactions or stay grounded regardless of them. Now let's talk about appearance and style. Some people overdress or overstyle just to force attention. Flashy brands, loud statements, obvious attempts to stand out. Again, short-term attention, long-term loss of intrigue. Subtle, clean, intentional presentation creates a different effect. It doesn't scream, it suggests. Suggestion creates curiosity. Obvious display creates quick judgment. It's not about being plain, it's about being composed. Let them notice, don't announce. Here's a deeper layer. The need to impress often comes from fear of being overlooked. You think, if I don't show them who I am right now, they'll never see it. That fear leads to oversharing, overperforming, and over-explaining. But real attraction builds over time, not in one performance. You have a choice. Rush to be understood, or allow yourself to be discovered slowly. Slow discovery builds stronger impressions. Fast exposure fades quickly. Now imagine two people. One tells you everything impressive about themselves in the first 10 minutes. The other shares small pieces naturally over weeks or months. Who feels more valuable? The one whose depth unfolds gradually. Mystery increases perceived depth. Overexposure reduces it. You don't need their permission to take your time revealing yourself. That's the discipline. Let's make it practical. In your next few conversations, resist the urge to mention your biggest achievements unless directly relevant. Resist the urge to turn stories toward yourself. Resist the urge to exaggerate for effect. Speak normally, stay grounded. Let your life speak through consistency, not performance. You'll feel the urge to impress rise up. Good. That's awareness. That's the moment of growth. You have a choice. Feed that urge or control it. Control builds presence. Here's what happens when you stop trying to impress. People start projecting positive traits onto you. They assume depth. They assume capability. They assume confidence. Because you are not trying to convince them of anything. The absence of self-promotion creates perceived self-assurance. That's the key. And here's the paradox. When you don't try to impress, you often impress more. Because what people discover on their own feels more real than what you present deliberately. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. When you chase admiration, you lower your value. When you let admiration come naturally, your value rises. You don't need their permission to be quietly confident. Silent attraction is built on restraint. Restraint in speech, restraint in movement, restraint in emotional reaction, and now restraint in self-promotion. You are no longer trying to look impressive. You are focusing on being grounded. That grounded energy is what people trust. Trust leads to attraction more than performance ever will. You stopped performing for approval. You slowed your body. You mastered your expressions. You learned the power of silence. Now you've removed the need to advertise your value. You are becoming internally solid instead of externally loud. That's silent attraction. But there's one more leak that can destroy this presence instantly. Emotional oversharing. You've stopped trying to impress with your achievements. Now you must stop exposing your emotional chaos. Chapter 8, Keep Your Emotions Private. Your emotions are powerful. That's exactly why not everyone should have access to them. Private emotions, public composure, you have a choice. Expose your emotional world to everyone, or protect it with discipline. Most people confuse emotional expression with emotional maturity. They vent constantly. They share every frustration, every insecurity, every mood swing. They believe openness builds connection. Unfiltered emotion does not build attraction. It builds emotional burden. People are drawn to stability, not volatility. It's not about suppressing feelings. It's about controlling access to them. Let's be clear. You are allowed to feel everything: anger, sadness, excitement, disappointment. But silent attraction requires that you choose where and with whom those emotions are expressed. Not every room deserves your emotional depth. You don't need their permission to keep parts of yourself private. When you publicly display every emotional high and low, people subconsciously label you as emotionally unpredictable. One day you're up, the next day you're drained, the next day you're frustrated. That instability lowers trust, and attraction without trust is weak. Private emotions, public composure. Think about the people you naturally see as strong: leaders, mentors, individuals with calm presence. They are not emotionless. They simply don't leak emotions everywhere. You rarely see their frustrations spill out randomly. You rarely see them emotionally unravel in public. They process internally or with a trusted few. That emotional containment creates psychological safety around them. You have a choice. Be emotionally loud or emotionally grounded. Grounded wins every time. Now let's talk about oversharing struggles too early. You meet someone new. Within a short time, you're telling them about past trauma, personal drama, deep insecurities. You think vulnerability builds closeness, but early oversharing often comes from a need to be understood quickly. That urgency is a form of emotional chasing. Attraction grows in space, not in chasing. Depth should be revealed in layers, not dumped all at once. When you reveal too much too soon, you remove mystery and place emotional weight on people who haven't earned that level of access. That can make them pull away, even if they don't know why. You don't need their permission to take your time opening up. That's the key. Now look at everyday emotional leakage. Bad day at work. You carry it into every conversation. Someone cancels plans. Your mood shifts visibly. Small inconvenience. Your tone becomes sharp. These reactions show that your internal state is easily controlled by external events. Emotional reactivity lowers perceived strength. You have a choice. Let your mood be public property or manage it privately. Private emotions, public composure. This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means choosing when and where emotional expression is appropriate. With close friends, with trusted partners, in private reflection, not in every casual interaction. Emotional privacy increases perceived stability. And stability is attractive. Now let's talk about social media energy in real life. Constant complaining. Constant venting, constant emotional commentary about life. That behavior might get sympathy, but sympathy is not attraction. Sympathy places you in a lower emotional position. Silent attraction comes from emotional self-reliance. You don't need their permission to handle your feelings without broadcasting them. When you handle emotions internally, your presence becomes calmer, more consistent. People don't feel like they have to manage your moods. They can relax around you. That relaxation builds comfort. Comfort builds connection. Connection builds attraction. That's the progression. Private emotions, public composure. Another key area is emotional validation seeking. You share frustrations just to hear, "Yeah, that sucks," or "You deserve better." You're not processing emotions. You're outsourcing regulation. That dependence weakens your emotional independence. You have a choice. Self-soothe or seek constant reassurance. Emotional self-control is a form of quiet strength. Strong people still feel deeply. They just don't make everyone else responsible for carrying those feelings. It's not about isolation, it's about emotional responsibility. Now imagine two people under stress. One person talks about it to everyone. Their frustration leaks into tone, posture, and conversation topics. The other person handles it quietly, stays composed socially, and shares only with trusted people when necessary. Who feels more attractive? The one who seems steady under pressure. Because steadiness signals resilience. Resilience is magnetic. You don't need their permission to keep your struggles private while you work through them. That doesn't make you fake. It makes you disciplined. That's the difference most people miss. Now here's an important balance. Keeping emotions private does not mean becoming emotionally closed. It means becoming emotionally selective. The right people get deeper access over time. The rest get your calm, respectful presence. You have a choice: emotional oversharing with everyone or emotional depth with a few. Depth shared slowly builds stronger bonds. Fast emotional exposure often builds fast emotional burnout. Private emotions, public composure. Let's make it practical. Next time you feel a strong emotional wave, pause before expressing it outwardly. Ask yourself, is this the right person? Is this the right time? Is this helpful or just reactive? That pause builds emotional discipline. Pause equals power. When your emotions stop spilling everywhere, your overall presence becomes more contained, more solid, more trustworthy. People start seeing you as someone who can handle life without falling apart in public. That perception alone increases attraction, because emotional control suggests maturity, and maturity suggests safety and strength. You stopped chasing approval. You slowed your body. You controlled your expressions. You mastered silence. You stopped trying to impress. Now you are protecting your emotional world. You are no longer emotionally available on demand. That creates depth. And depth is attractive. Your inner world is now more guarded. Good. Now we shape how your outer presence communicates stability before you say anything at all. Because your body is always speaking. Chapter 9, develop a grounded presence. Before you speak, before you smile, before you move, people feel your energy. Your body speaks first. You have a choice. Walk into a room scattered or walk in grounded. Grounded presence is silent attraction made visible. It is the combination of posture, breathing, stillness, and physical awareness that signals emotional stability without a single word. Most people live from the neck up, thoughts racing, attention scattered, body tense. They are physically present but mentally elsewhere. That disconnection creates nervous energy. Nervous energy repels. Grounded energy attracts. It's not about looking confident, it's about being settled in your body. Let's start with posture. Collapsed posture signals low energy and low confidence. Chest closed, shoulders forward, head slightly down. It looks like you're protecting yourself from the world. Overcorrected posture isn't better. Chest forced out, shoulders stiff, chin too high. That looks like performance. Grounded posture is relaxed and open, spine tall but not rigid, shoulders resting naturally, head level, neck loose. You don't need their permission to take up space comfortably. Posture is your body saying, "I'm secure where I stand." That's the key. Now breathing. Most people breathe high and shallow when they're around others. Quick breaths in the chest. This keeps the nervous system slightly activated. That subtle tension shows in micro movements, voice tone, and facial tightness. Slow breathing lowers internal noise. You have a choice. Let social environments tighten your body or use your breath to anchor yourself. Breathe lower into your stomach. Slower. Quieter. No one else needs to see it. But they will feel the result. Your voice steadies. Your movements slow. Your presence becomes heavier in a good way. Slow breath, strong presence. Grounded people don't rush their breathing. They don't look like they're trying to keep up. They look like they are setting the pace. Your body speaks first. Now let's talk about physical stillness. You've already reduced fidgeting. Good. Now take it further. Stillness is not just the absence of movement, it is the presence of control. When you stand, distribute your weight evenly. When you sit, avoid constant repositioning. When you listen, keep your body calm instead of reacting to every word. Stillness signals that your nervous system is not in fight or flight. Calm nervous systems feel safe to be around, and safety is deeply attractive. You have a choice: broadcast inner tension or broadcast inner stability. Now, eye level. Grounded presence includes how you hold your head and eyes. Looking down too often signals insecurity. Looking around constantly signals distraction. Staring aggressively signals dominance seeking. Steady, level gaze signals self-trust. Not forced, not intense, just present. You don't need their permission to look at people calmly without shrinking. Your body speaks first. Let's bring this into a real-world moment. You walk into a meeting, a social gathering, or a date. Version 1. You walk in quickly. Shoulders slightly tense. Eyes scanning fast. Phone in hand. Small adjustments to your clothes. Quick breaths. Version 2. You walk in at a measured pace. Shoulders relaxed. Chin level. Phone away. One slow breath as you enter. Brief scan of the room. Then stillness. Same person, different energy. One asks the room for approval. The other brings presence into the room. Presence attracts. Approval-seeking repels. That's the key. Grounded presence also affects your voice. When your body is tense, your voice tightens. It speeds up. It rises in pitch. When your body is grounded, your voice slows naturally. It sounds steadier, more controlled, more confident. People trust voices that sound calm and measured. You have a choice. Speak from tension or speak from stability. Now let's talk about physical boundaries. Grounded people don't shrink to accommodate everyone. They don't constantly lean in, hunch, or fold themselves small. They hold their physical space without aggression. Feet planted, shoulders open, movements unhurried. That physical confidence signals psychological confidence. It's not about taking more space, it's about not giving yours away unconsciously. Your body speaks first. Here's a simple exercise. Several times a day, do a posture reset. Shoulders back and down, spine tall, jaw relaxed. One slow breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel your feet on the ground. That reset brings your awareness from your head back into your body. Grounded people live in their bodies, not just in their thoughts. You have a choice. Live mentally scattered or physically centered. Centered people feel different to be around. Calmer, more stable, more self-assured. That feeling is silent attraction in action. Now understand this. You cannot fake grounded presence for long. If your mind is chaotic, your body will leak it. That's why everything you've learned so far matters. Emotional control, slower reactions, silence, reduced need to impress, emotional privacy, all of it supports physical grounding. This is the outer expression of inner discipline. Your body becomes the evidence of your self-control. You don't need their permission to stand calmly in your own space. When you develop a grounded presence, you stop chasing attention. Attention starts settling on you naturally. People may not know why they notice you. They just feel a different energy. Stable, calm, collected. That's rare. And rare is attractive. You stopped chasing with words. You slowed your movements. You mastered your face. You learned to pause. You became comfortable with silence. You stopped trying to impress. You kept your emotions private. Now, your body reflects all of it. You are no longer restless in social spaces. You are rooted. Rooted people don't beg for attention. They draw it. That is silent attraction. But there's one final layer. The ability to let people misunderstand you without rushing to correct them. Because the need to be fully understood by everyone is just another form of approval seeking. You are grounded now. Now you release the need to be explained. Chapter 10. Become comfortable. Being misunderstood. Not everyone will understand you. That is not a problem. The real problem is your need to fix that. Mystery builds value. You have a choice. Explain yourself constantly, or stand firm in who you are without running a public relations campaign for your personality. Most people are addicted to being understood. If someone misreads their tone, they rush to clarify. If someone questions their decision, they over-explain. If someone disagrees with their lifestyle, they defend it in detail. Why? Because they want approval. They want alignment. They want everyone to see them the right way. That need lowers attraction. You don't need their permission to live your life the way you choose. When you constantly explain yourself, you subtly say, "Your opinion of me controls my comfort." That gives strangers and acquaintances emotional authority over you. Silent attraction requires emotional independence. It's not about being misunderstood on purpose. It's about not panicking when it happens. Mystery builds value. Let's break down what this looks like in real life. Someone says, "You're really quiet." Most people instantly defend. "No, I'm just tired," or "I'm actually talkative once I know people," or "I've just had a long day." Why are you explaining? Their label is not a threat unless you decide it is. You have a choice. Correct every perception or let people think what they think. Calm response? Slight smile. Maybe. Then move on. That response signals security. You are not scrambling to manage how you're perceived. That's the key. Here's another example. You say no to something. An invite, a request, a favor. The other person looks surprised or slightly offended. Instantly, you feel pressure to justify your decision with a long explanation. Stop. A simple, respectful, "I can't make it" is enough. You don't need their permission to have boundaries. Over-explaining your no weakens it. Calmly standing by it strengthens your presence. Mystery builds value. Now let's talk about disagreement. You share an opinion, someone challenges it. Most people rush into debate mode, trying to prove they're right so they won't be judged as wrong or ignorant. But not every disagreement deserves a defense. You have a choice. Win every argument or keep your composure and let people hold different views. Sometimes the most powerful response is, "That's one way to see it." Then silence. That calm, non-reactivity signals confidence. You are not threatened by differing opinions. That emotional security is attractive. It's not about being passive, it's about being unshaken. Now here's the deeper layer. When you're comfortable being misunderstood, you stop shaping your personality to fit every room. You stop adjusting your humor, your interests, your tone just to match whoever you're with. You become consistent. Consistency builds identity. Identity builds presence. Presence builds attraction. You don't need their permission to be the same person in every room. Most people are social chameleons out of fear. They shift constantly to avoid friction. That makes them easier to get along with, but harder to respect. Grounded people accept that not everyone will vibe with them. And that's fine. Mystery builds value. When you stop explaining every part of yourself, you create space for curiosity. People start wondering, observing, figuring you out over time. That slow discovery increases perceived depth. Over-explained people feel shallow. Not because they are, but because nothing is left to uncover. You have a choice. Be fully exposed immediately or let people earn understanding. Earned understanding feels more meaningful. Now let's address fear. What if they think I'm rude? What if they think I'm weird? What if they think I don't like them? Here's the truth. You cannot control every perception without losing yourself. And trying to is exhausting. Silent attraction requires selective indifference, not to people, to opinions. You don't need their permission to be okay with being misread by people who don't truly know you. That emotional detachment frees up massive energy. Energy that you can put into self-respect, growth, and meaningful connections instead of reputation management. That's the key. People who are comfortable being misunderstood appear more confident because they are not chasing universal approval. They accept that some will like them, some won't, and some won't understand them at all. And they stay steady anyway. Steadiness is attractive. Mystery builds value. Here's a practical shift. The next time someone makes an inaccurate assumption about you, resist the urge to correct it unless it truly matters. Let small misunderstandings pass. Notice the discomfort in your body. Breathe. Stay calm. You are training yourself to detach from external validation. You have a choice. Manage every impression or manage your own state. One drains you, the other strengthens you. When you become comfortable being misunderstood, you become harder to manipulate. Guilt tactics don't work as well. Social pressure weakens. You make decisions based on your values, not reactions. That inner stability shows externally as quiet confidence. And quiet confidence is the core of silent attraction. You've stopped chasing approval. You slowed your movements. You mastered your expressions. You learned to pause. You became comfortable with silence. You stopped trying to impress. You kept your emotions private. You grounded your body. Now you've released the need to be fully understood. Nothing about you is loud, but everything about you is solid. That is silent attraction. You don't beg to be seen. You don't rush to be known. You don't panic when misread. You stay grounded, consistent, calm, and people feel it. You've built the habits. Now it's time to lock them in. Closing. Chapter: The Discipline of Silent Attraction. This was never about tricks. It was never about pretending to be someone else. It was about control. Internal control that becomes visible without you trying. Silent attraction is not a personality type. It is a discipline. You have a choice. Drift through social life on impulse, or move through it with intention. That's the difference between being noticed for a moment and being remembered for a long time. You learned that attraction grows in space, not in chasing. You stopped chasing approval with your words. You cut the extra sentences. You stopped explaining your worth to people who didn't ask. That's the key. You slowed your movements. You removed the restless energy that screams insecurity. You learned that a calm body signals a calm mind. Slow body, strong mind. You mastered your face. You stopped leaking every emotional reaction. You understood that composure is more powerful than charm. You don't need their permission to stay steady. You learn to speak less and say more. You stopped filling silence just to avoid discomfort. You let your words carry weight instead of noise. Value speaks in fewer words. You detached from immediate reactions. You stopped letting praise inflate you and criticism shake you. You created space between stimulus and response. Pause equals power. You became comfortable with silence. You stopped seeing it as awkward and started using it as presence. You let others lean in instead of you leaning forward. Silence makes people lean in. You controlled your need to impress. You stopped advertising your value. You let people discover it. You replaced performance with grounded confidence. Let them notice, don't announce. You kept your emotions private. Not because you are cold, but because you are disciplined. You chose emotional responsibility over emotional exposure. Private emotions, public composure. You developed a grounded presence. Your posture, your breath, your stillness started speaking before your mouth ever opened. Your body speaks first. And finally, you became comfortable being misunderstood. You stopped running around correcting every perception. You accepted that not everyone needs access to your full story. Mystery builds value. This is silent attraction. Not loud, not flashy, not desperate. Stable, controlled, self-contained. It's not about making everyone like you. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need everyone to. You have a choice. Seek attention or build presence. Attention is loud and short-lived. Presence is quiet and lasting. Most people will never do this work. They will keep performing, keep oversharing, keep reacting, keep chasing validation in every room they enter. You won't. Because you understand something now. Attraction is not created by adding more. It's created by removing what weakens you. Removing the need to impress, removing emotional impulsiveness, removing restless energy, removing over-explanation. What's left is you, calm, grounded, intentional. That version of you does not beg to be seen. That version of you is felt. You don't need their permission to take up space calmly. You don't need their approval to feel secure. You don't need to prove your worth through noise. That's the discipline. And discipline is what separates average presence from magnetic presence. But knowledge means nothing without action. You have a choice. Close this audiobook and go back to old habits or start practicing immediately. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, move through the world with one focus. Less reaction, more control. Speak less than usual. Slow your movements. Hold eye contact calmly. Let silence exist. Don't rush to impress. Don't overshare emotions. Don't explain yourself unless truly necessary. Feel the discomfort. That discomfort is growth. Every time you resist the urge to perform, your presence strengthens. Every time you pause instead of reacting, your control deepens. Every time you stay grounded while others rush, your value rises quietly. This is not a one-time switch, it is a daily discipline. But if you commit to it, something shifts. People start responding to you differently. They listen more closely. They open up more. They respect your boundaries more. They feel your presence before they understand it. And the best part? You feel calmer, less dependent on reactions, less drained by social interactions, more in control of yourself. That inner stability is the real reward. Silent attraction is not just about how others see you, it's about who you become in the process. Stronger, calmer, more self-trusting. You have a choice. Go back to chasing or start embodying. Stay quiet, stay grounded, stay in control. Let your presence do the talking. Attraction is not loud. It is not desperate. It is not built through constant talking, explaining, or proving. Silent attraction comes from control. Control of your emotions, control of your words, control of your reactions. When you slow down, people notice. When you speak less, people listen. When you stop seeking approval, people start respecting you. This is not about becoming cold or distant. It is about becoming grounded, composed, and internally strong. The world is full of people trying to be seen. Very few have the discipline to be still, calm, and self-contained. That discipline is what makes someone magnetic. Starting today, practice moving slower, reacting less, and speaking with intention. Let people come to you. Let your presence do the work. The challenge is simple. For the next 7 days, stop trying to impress anyone. Say less, stay calm, hold your composure. Watch how differently people respond to you.